I think the essential message is don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. There is such a lot of fear in political discussion and religious discussion, and you know, people raising holy hands in fear about the environment, about the economy, about terrorism, and so forth. And there was just as much violence in the time of Francis, if not more so. He just renounced all fear. He did it by renouncing ownership. He didn't have to worry about losing his house because he didn't own a house, or his clothes because he didn't make any claim on his clothes either. He just didn't bother with all that. With owning nothing, he was fearless. He was comfortable. I think of Francis, this is kind of my own vision of him, that you know, he's identified as a lover of creatures. The birds would land on his shoulder. He talked to the wild rabbits and so forth, and he felt a sympathy with all living things because he was simply living outside of this enormous infrastructure that we have been building for thousands of years, probably like 100,000 years. We have been building these systems to support human life, and that's good. But he wanted to step outside of all of those infrastructures and just live in the wild, trusting that there will be enough to eat today and tomorrow. Sometimes there wasn't, and that was okay too. And he went hungry. And sometimes he had no shelter, and he was cold and wet in the wintertime and hot and dry in the summertime. But in any case, he just saw God supporting him as God supported all the creatures. And it's that kind of confidence, that kind of fearlessness that we really do have to bring to every age, and this age in particular. So Francis, he brings that sense of confidence in God's always surprising resourcefulness. The future cannot be predicted. You cannot figure out how things are going to develop from the way things are. Even in looking in the past, you can't figure out what the trajectory is. And I think Francis, when he stripped off all his clothes and walked away from his father, if he had starved to death a week later, that would have been just fine with him. He was doing God's will. And yet he lived another 20 years or so because the Lord God sustained him day by day. And that's all he asked of God, one day at a time. And when he died at the tender age of 44, he was very happy to have lived as many years as he had.